let's press, shall we? Okay, so GFR, is one of those things that's primarily regulated locally, intrinsic. Auto-regulation, intrinsic mean the same thing. All right, so typically your nervous system doesn't really get involved, or the hormones, in case there's an extreme situation like, again, dehydration or whatnot, okay? But we want to try to keep it in that range. Somebody impress me right off the top of their head. What's the normal range for GFR, if you include men and women? Somebody, gold star, who's been studying? Okay. Christine is a little backwards, but I get what you're saying. But yeah, so both Christine and Christina, that's fine. I figured it out. All right. Yeah, so 110 to 140, that's what you're looking for. All right. And again, most of this is locally controlled. And exactly. Very good. Is that a question, Christina? Well, yes, it's milliliters per minute. Yes, it's a rate. And again, and this is not a big deal, but in physiology, when there's a rate, it's usually per minute, regardless, whether it's heart rate, breathing rate, you name it, it's per minute. And yeah, we're talking milliliters. Okay, so we want to control that. We want to make sure that our GFR is just right. We don't want it to be too fast because I don't give those awesome little cuboidal cells a chance to reabsorb all the nutrients. I don't want it to be too slow because there are things that may seep in from the capillaries that we didn't want to keep. So again, this one kind of reminds me of one episode. I wasn't a big fan. Haven't actually ever seen any old episodes of I Love Lucy. Lucy and Desi Arnaz. Christine has. Hey, look who joined the party. Andy did. How you doing, Andy? We were missing you. People were talking about you.
Yes, sir. I'm here. I was stuck in traffic. I apologize.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But I love Lucy too.
Well, yeah. You're a little bit older. I mean, not old.
Yeah, I'm 35. So I'm not that
30.
old.
No, you're not that old. You're still, yeah, no. You have your best years ahead of you. Anyway, and we were joking that I had a ton of friends and family that got COVID in the last week, but I have not. And one of your clever students said, Rick, you have to do what Andy told you and kiss strangers. So I guess that will be my thing to do.
This weekend.
That was Samantha, yeah. Samantha, Andy told me to kiss strangers. I'm like, okay, fine. I don't know, any particular place. All right, so Andy's here, great. So Christine says she's seen I Love Lucy, and Andy has. It's old. This is a 1950s and 60s show, folks. So you'd have to really look for it. But there's one episode that I thought was hilarious that relates to this line right here. Oh, okay, Christine. Christine is a fountain of knowledge, folks. All right, so there's one episode you have to watch. It's funny. I didn't think Lucy was all that funny, but this one was. Christine, Andy, did you see the one where she's working in a candy factory?
Yeah, of course. That's a classic.
It is a classic. So for the rest of you that have no idea what we're talking about, so Lucy, who's kind of goofy, in her role in that series. She works in a candy factory, and the conveyor belt keeps going faster and faster. They're supposed to be sorting the candies out, and eventually it's going so fast that she can't keep up with the conveyor belt. So she starts eating the candies. She starts stuffing them in her pockets and whatnot. It is funny. You have to watch it. Christine says it's on Hulu. But again, that's see, Cindy, and now you got references that I don't know. I don't know who Drake and Josh are, but
Yes, it's like Drake and Josh.
Okay, I'm not. I don't know what that is. They made the same scene. Oh, did they?
Yeah, it's a show that they had on. It was a series on Nickelodeon, and it was two boys, but they did like the same thing.
They did the same thing. Okay, all right, cool. All right. So yeah, so we don't want the GFR rate too high. Things are going to be flying by, and of course, we're primarily talking about glucose. If we are healthy, we do not give up glucose. We do not let glucose escape our body, unfortunately. All right, so I'll try to check out Drake and Josh. What were they? What was it? Hamburgers or what? I don't know. All right. So, oh, look at Cindy. Sushi. Okay. All right. Well, that'll be interesting. All right. So here we go. We have auto-regulation, which is the local stuff. And then again, our neural endocrine will roll in if necessary, but typically it's not. So we have two systems. You've heard this myogenic thing before. So this isn't new to you. Myogenic just means that if smooth muscle is stretched, it automatically constricts. That's what smooth muscle likes to do. So if there's an increased pressure and flow, that afferent arteriole expands, it's going to turn around and try to constrict to reduce that blood flow. The other one is this fun word to say, tubuloglomerular feedback, tubuloglomerular. And that, again, we're not going to get into the gory details, but here's where you have to know a little bit more than what we did in the vascular system. You have a complex called the JGA, juxtaglomerular apparatus, and it's monitoring the flow of filtrate. And it has the ability to either slow it down or speed it up, depending on where we are. So we're going to keep this simple. So this is right here, if you can see my cursor, right here, these are clever little cells called the JGA. And again, they are monitoring the flow of GFR. Remember what I said last Monday. The distal convoluted tubule passes between the afferent and efferent arteriole. I'm not going to belabor that, but remember, most of the slides do this to you, and this is not how it is. This DCT actually passes through the efferent and afferent arteriole. But they do that, they splay it out, as somebody said earlier, for pathway. So once again, the GFR, the flow comes through there, and these cells monitor it, macula densa cells, and again, depending on whether it's too slow or too fast, they can cause the afferent arteriole to either constrict or dilate. All right, we're going to keep it that simple. Are we good? All right, and then extrinsic is really just basically the sympathetic nervous system saying, we're taking over right now because we don't want GFR, we don't want a full bladder, we don't want the kidneys involved in us fighting the bear or running away from the bear. All right, and deja vu. How many have seen this before? Come on, guys. No. Christine, you're killing me. I would have liked to think I would have got 14 yeses right out of gate. All right? You did see this before. All right? And more importantly, do you think this is going to be on your next test? You betcha. You betcha. All right. And yeah, Andy, come on. All right. So yeah, this is going to definitely be on your next test. Yeah. Well, Suresh. Hey, Suresh, you joined a little bit late too. Nice to see you. All right. You must have snuck in on me. But yeah, I'm trying to emphasize that this will be on your test. Why is it going to be on your test? Somebody? Do the logic thing. Why is it going to be on your test? Come on, guys. Throw me a bone. Well, Joshua goes with the go-to because you said, oh, come on. Why am I emphasizing?
It's one of our it's one of our hormone productions, EPO and RAAS. So it's part of that the urinary system.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. That's good, but that's not what I really wanted to hear from the class. Well, yeah, some of it's going. Folks, this is an important. Thank you, Bukola. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, folks, this is what you're going to be dealing with in your future careers. This is the system that we target for high blood pressure and low blood pressure. So yeah, you're going to hear about renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. And we already mentioned, did I not already mention ACE inhibitors? Please tell me I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is a critical thing, and you will see it again in your future careers. I assure you. All right. But I don't think I need to go through it again, so we'll just move right along. Okay, tell you what I'm going to do because I'm nice, and it's the last one. I'm gonna start recording from here on out, so you'll have this. Because technically there's 15 of you here, and if there's only 20 of you left, that officially makes it 75%, according to my math. So I'll record from here on out. All right, so we're recording this. All right. Yeah, Andy, and like I said, the only reason why I didn't is because I didn't want anybody to bail. But like I said, I'm looking at it right now. 15 are in the class. There's 15 of you are here, 20 in the class. Deani told me she couldn't make it. We're missing a couple bodies, but we didn't make it to the 75%. So we're going with it. All right. So yes, this is going to be on your test. All right. And you've seen this one before. Now, remember what I said the last time. What do you have to know? Do you need to know all the silly stuff? What are you going to say about atrial natriuretic peptide in one simple sentence? Come on. Okay, no one. All right, you're just, oh, God. Okay, Christina, we don't use words like it gets rid of. That sounds like you're a mafia. So we're going to say it inhibits renin, ADH, and aldosterone. Very good, Bukola. It inhibits. So yeah, the little red squares, the red circles with a cross, if you haven't been to Europe, because I don't think we have that in America, but that's In Europe, and I did a lot of time there, a circle with a cross means don't do it. All right. So all you have to do is say AMP is antagonistic or inhibits all the things that are trying to get you to increase your blood pressure. All right. And then, of course, the last one is our vasopressin. Again, something you've seen before. It will be on your test again because it's really super important. All right? Especially when we talk about managing high blood pressure. So review that again. And you'll be good to go on this test. And that's just a slide that kind of covers everything. And again, this is intrinsic stuff. We do have vasodilators and vasoconstrictors, and you've seen these before when we talked about the vascular system. Hold on.
Today, the Federal Reserve raised its key interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point to its highest.
All right, sorry about that, folks. All right, so these are just local things, and you've seen this. I'd like to think that you leave my course knowing that nitric oxide is always a vasodilator, and endothelin is always a vasoconstrictor. All right, and again, these are local things that try to, again, and we're basically talking about the afferent arteriole to reduce the flow or increase the flow depending on what we need. All right, let's move on. So this is a little bit more redundant. I've already gave you this review, but it's always good to hear it a second time or a third time or a fourth time. So once again, I have blood going into my nephron under high pressure, that net filtration pressure of what? For a gold star, what's the net filtration pressure? It's pushing the plasma out. It's a nice round number.
Is it 55?
Okay, that's the filtration. That's a hydrostatic pressure. That's very good, 55. But what's the net after everything's said and done?
Oh, it's 10.
Very good. Outstanding, Christine. All right. Beautiful. So we're pushing the plasma out. Everything that was in the plasma is going out except for what? Quickly, someone? Outstanding. All right. Great job, guys. Beautiful. I love to see everybody participate. All right. And so then what we're going to learn now is how these miraculous little cells, cuboidal cells, simple cuboidal cells, absorb all the good stuff that we want to keep. And then we go down the descending and ascending loop of Henle, and that's where we tweak the volume and concentration of your urine. The distal convoluted tubule is the last little chance to tweak whatever we want to get rid of before it officially becomes urine. Once it's in the collecting duct, that's called urine. All right. So, reabsorption and secretion. Question. Hold on. Yes, Christine, talk to me.
Sorry, you probably went over this last class, but so I know that it goes from plasma to filtrate to urine. At what part does it become a filtrate?
Okay, let's go back one slide. Once that plasma leaves the glomerulus and is in the Bowman's capsule, it's filtrate. And remains filtrate all the way through, and we're going to talk about this in detail, this the PCT, the loop of Henle, and so it's still filtrate until what's ever left goes from the distal convoluted tubule into the collecting duct. Now it's officially urine. So plasma in the blood, filtrate in the Bowman's capsule, and urine in the collecting duct. Did I answer your question? All right, cool. All righty then, so we have these amazing little cuboidal cells that are able to reabsorb all the things that we absolutely have to keep, but there are maximums. If we have too much of whatever, it's going to be like the I Love Lucy episode where there's going to be too much stuff for me to actually reabsorb, and it's going to escape. But your kidneys are extremely efficient, so that rarely happens. But we're going to talk about that. So we do have what's called a transport maximum, where we have overloaded our ability to reabsorb the things that we want to keep. All right. So real quick review, we have our favorite little pump. There's a sodium potassium pump because I want most of my sodium back. And I'd like to think now you realize that normally you say, oh, sodium's bad, but now you all know that sodium is our life, all right? Sodium is necessary for action potentials for everything. So we need sodium. Just when is sodium bad, Andy?
Say that again.
When is sodium bad?
Oh, when there's too much.
When there's too much. But otherwise, we need our sodium. All right? We have to have sodium, and your body goes through great lengths to retain that sodium. So that filtrate we're going to pull all the sodium we can out of that filtrate back into the system. All right? So that's our normal little classic sodium potassium pump, but we also use that pump to bring in other things. So our glucose, our amino acids, which is what AA stands for, ions, other nutrients, they're going to use a co-transport system or a secondary. There's like three different names for it: coupled transport, secondary transport, co-transport. But again, we're going to keep this simple. So there's a sodium potassium pump, pumping sodium out of the cuboidal cell, which makes up the tubule. Sodium is going to want to come in from high to low, and it's going to drag glucose in. That's how we reabsorb it, and that's the same way we reabsorb our amino acids and whatnot. Okay. All right, here we go. We all love graphs, don't we? So, let me talk you through it. It's not that scary. Not that scary at all. Of course, it's on the test. You know, all graphs are on the test. All right. So, the first graph is a no-brainer. All right. Look at what the x-axis is saying: plasma glucose level. All right. And we put an average of 100. Remember, we say now 70 to 110. In the old textbooks, you may see 80 to 120. But that is my glucose level in the plasma or in the blood, around 100 milligrams per. And remember, folks, metric. 100 milliliters is equivalent to what? Somebody impress me, and I'll give a star for this. 100 milliliters is equivalent to what? What's the other unit we use? And that's why you need to know that, because again, textbooks are going to give you. No, we don't care about metrics. We don't care about metrics. Okay. All right. That's clever. Christina, Sarish, Vanessa. That's clever, but you are right. But isn't there another way to say that? 0.1 liters is correct, but there's a better way to say that. Anyone? Come on, guys. Okay, Christina, 1/10 of a liter. What is that in the metric system? Come on, guys, this is not hard. We've said it 1,000 times in this class. Oh my goodness. Deciliter, deciliter, deciliter. All right. I don't even know what you just said there. 1,000 deciliters. That's crazy. That's 10 liters. All right. Deciliter. So, Christine's our class clown. Yeah. All right. So, I just want to emphasize that to you because I don't want that to confuse you. So 100 milliliters is the same thing as a 0.1 liter. That is correct, but we use the term deciliter. Most of everything we've talked about in terms of blood concentrations has been per deciliter. All right. So on the y-axis, we have the filtrate rate. How much glucose are we filtering out of the blood and into the glomerulus? And it's a simple linear correlation. The more glucose you have in your blood, the more you filter. That's a no-brainer. B is tricky, and this is really, really super important. All right? So, here we have what we call our transport maximum, meaning the best your kidneys can do, and these are averages, is to reabsorb 375 milligrams of glucose per minute. That's the best it can do. And that is going to reach its limit when your blood glucose level is 300, which should never happen. If you look in the purple area, you see from 100 to 200. Again, 100 would be, again, this spot's a little old, maybe that would be 90, but 100 would be your fasting glucose, and 200 may be your glucose level after you've had a full meal. Is everybody following me? I don't want to lose anybody here. So again, this is your normal range of blood glucose level, depending on whether you haven't eaten or you have eaten. And you can still see that it's way below the maximum of what you can transport and reabsorb. So if you're healthy, everything's good. If your blood glucose level goes above 300, for whatever reason, you can't reabsorb that. So that's going to be excreted. And that's what the C slide says. Boom. Everything above 300 is going to be found in the urine. And the most likely reason your blood glucose would be above 300 is what? Well, come on, Christine. Excess. Ugh. Can we do better? Can somebody? When would your glucose levels be above 300? No, not alcohol consumption. Good gosh. I'm not even sure what I'm going to tell you. No, folks, what would cause... Thank you, Amy. Oh, my goodness. Come on, guys. It's been one of our topics, all right? Diabetes. We've covered this in great detail. All right. So if you're healthy, and this was on our last test, if you're healthy, there's no way your blood glucose level should be over 300 milligrams per deciliter unless you have diabetes. Or, yes, there is one other way you could do that. And that would be like eating. Okay, fine, Nita. So the only other reason that your blood glucose would be over 300 is you ate all your Halloween candy in one night, or you polished off a couple pints of Ben and Jerry's or whatever. All right. But that would be extreme. But normally you can't do this. And you all of you, well, not all of you, that's my other class. But again, we can test this by making you drink a bunch of glucose and see how far it goes. But it should never be above 300 unless you have diabetes. So if you have diabetes, your glucose levels can commonly go to 300. It can go to 700. I think one of my ex-students that's a nurse said they had a patient where it was at 1,100 milligrams per deciliter. That's insane. And so all that is going to be excreted in the urine. Your little trivia thing is diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus, this is Greek. Diabetes means to flow. Mellitus refers to honey. So diabetes mellitus means flowing honey, which is what your urine would be like. Sweet urine. Very good, Daniel. And a couple hundred years ago, the only way they could determine if somebody had diabetes would be to what? What do the lab techs have to do? Taste it. That's exactly what doctors, well, you don't have to drink it. You can just taste it. So yeah, 200 years ago, doctors would just taste the urine. And if it was sweet, that meant diabetes. Either way, yeah, you don't have to drink it. You just have to put a little taste in your mouth and go, oh yeah, it's sweet. Kind of reminds me of one of my favorite series ever. We don't have time for that, but there's a great series. Should I even mention that? God, no. Do we have time for this? How many have seen the series Outlander? Some of it. No. Oh, you guys got to watch that. Are you kidding me? The Outlander is awesome. All right. It's got some really, yeah. Anyway, I just bring that up because the short version is a nurse gets transported from World War II to the 1500s. So she's like the smartest person on the planet. And one of the episodes was, she would taste the urine to detect diabetes. No one's seen that? Really? Oh, God. All right. Well, all right. That's your homework. You have to watch Outlander. It's really a cool series. Anyway, all right. So getting back to reality here. So if you're producing or you have more than 300 milligrams of glucose in your plasma, then it's going to be excreted, and that's a sure sign of diabetes. All right. We're going to move on. But yes, folks, let me go back one more time. This is your magic number to remember for your test is 375 milligrams per minute. That is the maximum amount of glucose you can reabsorb per minute in your kidneys. And that happens when your blood glucose level is at 300. So anything above 300 and beyond cannot It's oversaturated and cannot be reabsorbed. Yeah, Christine. Just D is kind of stupid. That's just putting them all together, which didn't make any sense to me. So don't worry about graph D. All right. Things that aren't reabsorbed are things that you want to get rid of. So we don't have carriers. They're not lipid soluble. Remember, lipid soluble substances are going to go wherever they want to, from high concentration to low concentration, due to diffusion, and then, of course, anything that's too large. The two key things that you produce in your metabolism are creatinine and uric acid. You don't reabsorb them. These are waste products that you produced, as well as urea. The problem with urea, it is lipid soluble. So again, it's just going to go from high concentration to low concentration. So again, our tubular secretion is just getting rid of the stuff that we don't want, any undesirable things, anything that you may have consumed, whether it was a drug or whatever. We're going to get rid of all that stuff. And then we're going to tweak our potassium levels as necessary and our pH as necessary. Okay? So again, your kidneys are remarkable. And I think I've made it quite clear. What's the purpose of a detox? No purpose. I cannot emphasize that enough. All right? Between your liver and your kidneys, there are no toxins building up in your body. All right. So when I was face to face, and I'd have a couple of my health nut students in the class, and they'd have this big glass or jar of green gook, and I'm like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's part of my detox regimen." I'm like, "Oh, okay, we need to have a talk." All right. So no, nothing builds up. Why? Why can't anything build up in your body? It's a simple word that starts with a D. Why does nothing build up? There you go, Andrea and Joshua. Diffusion. Yeah. Things that go from high concentration to low concentration. So anything that's built up is going to diffuse, and then your beautiful kidneys and your liver will take care of it. All right. So let's move on. So when we talk about reabsorption, the proximal convoluted tubule is the busiest. This is an important little data point. All right. Your PCT is going to reabsorb 60 to 70% of all that filtrate and 100% of the nutrients. All right. And of course, unless you have diabetes or whatnot, but we want it all back. We do not want to let any of that stuff go that is beneficial to us. All right. And then, of course, here we have green. So the PCT is also going to get rid of hydrogen ions if our hydrogen ions are too high, if we have acidosis, if we're acidic. And we'll talk more about that on next lecture. So this is a busy little slide. Don't kill yourself, but you can see it's really busy, but it's a cool summary slide. So there is our favorite reaction, CO2 plus H2O gives me my carbonic acid that dissociates to a hydrogen ion and a bicarbonate ion. And now I can get rid of the hydrogen ion, dump it in if I'm too acidic. Here's my sodium potassium pump doing its thing. And then sodium wants to come in because the sodium levels in the cuboidal cell are low. And then we have all kinds of crazy things going on here. We have a co-transport system where sodium wants to come in. It's going to drag glucose in. This is called symport. And then sodium wants to come in over here and it pushes hydrogen ions out that's called antiport. That's not important. I'm not going to ask you that. But again, just a lot of busy stuff going on there. All right. So again, the DCT is just the last little bit of tweaking, especially for sodium, potassium, and hydrogen ions. All right. Water is regulated by ADH, our friend we know all about, and sodium and potassium are regulated by endoscopy. See, they came back. You haven't heard from them in a while, but they're back. All right. So you can see that the DCT is not busy. We're just going to tweak it. How much sodium do I need? How much potassium do I need? So not much on it. No. Okay. All right. So slide scare you. I'm not going to explain what a milliosmol is, other than to say that that is how we measure your concentration of solutes in your body fluids. All right. So our normal concentration, if everything is fine, is 300 milliosmoles. 300 milliosmoles. All right. So we'll just keep that as at surface level, that you need to know 300 milliosmoles. That means that we have just the right, and this is all related to our tonicity. Remember way back when hypertonic versus hypotonic versus isotonic? 300 milliosmoles is isotonic for us. Life is good if we're there. All right. And just to give this a little application, if you're dehydrated for whatever reason, you're outside sweating, you're working hard outside, whatever, this would go up to 600. If you had too much water, and yes, there is such thing as too much water, that could be 150 milliosmoles, which is just as bad. And so your kidneys, again, are the ones that make sure that your osmolarity, your concentration of solutes, is where it needs to be. And they do it through what we call a counter current mechanism. All right. So this is the hardest part of this lecture right here. All right. So let's take a break. Let's see, it's be back at 6:27. Be back at 6:40. We only have a handful of slides left, but this is where it gets a little complicated. All right. So take a break. I'll see you back at 6:40.